right, welcome everybody. Welcome back to what we're calling Doing Sport Differently Wednesday. I'm Steve Pallas, and I'm really excited to be joined by Kate Haberfield from the Warrnambool Triathlon. Kate, welcome to the Sports Community live stream.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having us.
Oh, well, I always like to talk to people that are actually colder than I am at the moment, so Warrnambool wouldn't be terribly warm at the moment.
No, it's cold, drizzly. Yeah, lots of layers required.
Lots of layers required. So a couple of years ago, having spoken to you earlier on, I've been really excited about this discussion because there's so many ways it can go. But a couple of years ago, the club created the Couch to Coast Triathlon. What is that? And really, why did you create a new format of the sport for your community?
Yeah, so in its original iteration, the Couch to Coast event was a women's only triathlon and what we called a splash, dash and dawdle event, which was open to all ages. And our vision around that was jump in with your kids, like super short. It's really casual, just come in with your kids. So both events were non-competitive, and the aim was just to open up the sport a little bit. The catalyst for that was I was participating in our foreshore event, which is our main Warrnambool Tri Club triathlon event, and someone made the comment, "Where are all the women?" And sort of looked around and went, "Yeah, there's not that many of us. Why is that?" And sort of thinking about it, I thought, well, for someone looking from the outside looking in, there's lots of fit people, lots of high-end looking athletes in this sport with, really good looking gear, and that might be a little bit intimidating for anyone wanting to sort of take that first step. So that's kind of where the Couch to Coast concept came from. And it was a collaboration between Leadership Great South Coast and the Warrnambool Tri Club to tack those events onto some existing events that the Tri Club had.
Yeah, cool. Really clever. When you took the concept to the committee, how did the committee react initially?
They were super supportive, actually. They just pretty much said, yeah, just put together what you want to do, and by all means, you can tack those on. You just organise it, which we did. And my other half, David, was the event director at the time, so that helped because he had a lot of knowledge around. There's a fair bit of paperwork involved in getting events off the ground. So he kind of had that skill set and was able to support there. And the club was super supportive. Really got behind it.
So let's have a look at both of those, the formats. And sorry, before we do that, so the target audience, for want of better, or target participants for the Couch to Coast and the Splash Dash and Dawdle, which is a great brand, or could be a great brand. Who was your target audience? Was it,
Yeah, look, initially it was women to get some more women into the club, but also families. So mums and kids or dads and kids. Our kids' events have always been really popular. So there's a huge number of parents sort of sitting on the sidelines, but we think this sport really lends itself as a great family activity. So trying to get those people more involved in the club.
So were you targeting women that had participated in Tri before and trying to get them back to the sport, or were you looking to introduce Tri to a whole new group?
Yeah, look, I think naively to start off with, we were looking to get people active. But then in retrospect, and have come to realise that actually, someone who's not particularly active is not going to just jump in and do a Tri event. Well, some people will, but the majority are not going to jump in and do an event as their first sort of foray into getting more active. So we've tempered that over the last couple of years, and now more leading with our free training events, recognising that that's the more likely way that people might begin to engage rather than launching straight into that big event, which can be really intimidating.
And I think that's such incredibly powerful learning. Like we were talking before going on air, that those of us that have been in sport for a long period of time kind of are happy to bounce from sport to sport and just start to participate in the game. But for many, that's just a step way too far. And that's what you found in triathlon, wasn't it?
Yeah, so I don't think it's a deliberate thing, but I think
No.
when it's first of all, it's a big step for someone to turn up at an event or a club where they don't necessarily know anyone and they don't know the sport. So it's a huge step for someone to do that. And if they get there and everybody that's there kind of knows each other and are chatting and it feels kind of a little bit cliquey, it can be a pretty lonely experience. So I think, and this is something our club is very focused on, is if you see a new face there on the day, really go up to them and make an effort and say, hey, how you going? Maybe introduce them to another new person. So try and buddy them up a little bit. And the power of that personal connection and the belonging, or making people feel like they belong, is just a massive thing to get them to come back the second time, because they've already taken that massive step to come along the first time. For some of them, it's a huge step.
Well, again, as someone who's grown up in sporting clubs, it wasn't until I really dived deep into the research with Vic Health doing sport differently that they did in conjunction with La Trobe Uni, and then started this series talking with different clubs sharing their experiences, that I realized that one of the key challenge points is that time between when people drive up into the car park and actually getting into the club for the first time is unbelievably hugely daunting, and that just never occurred to me.
Yeah, right. That's interesting, because I can very much relate to that first step being a big step to take. I think we're at a little bit of an advantage now with social media. So that's something that our club has used pretty extensively over the last couple of years. One of our committee members, Nicole Barnes, is just a bit of a whiz on the social media and has had a really consistent presence there and getting images and messaging across. And I think that enables people to sit in their lounge rooms who might be a little bit tentative and sort of watch from afar for a little bit. And they're really looking out for those messages, and they're looking out for those images of people that are like them, because I think one of the sort of catchphrases is you can't be what you can't see. So they're looking for photos of people of different ages and different body shapes and different abilities. They're looking for that messaging about, we're not coming to training to beat each other or anything. It's all about, work at your own level. And I think social media is a really powerful tool for that, and it's available, at very low cost.
Well, I was looking through your social media pages, or the Facebook page particularly, and one of the things that really was obvious was that you're putting up photos and messaging that related specifically to that audience that you're trying to attract. It was almost creating that environment where they could see themselves doing it, because they could see themselves on their 20-year-old push bike going for a ride in the group, because people were doing that. And they could see themselves going for a run because people were wearing baggy T-shirts and tracky pants, and they didn't have the latest Lycra. You created that environment where people could see themselves doing it, and I think that was amazing.
Yeah, and look, that's just something that we've built up over time. Obviously, for our first event, we didn't have that stock of images, but we actually worked with our local camera club and gave them a small donation to have all their volunteers come and do some basically professional photographs for us. And that really helped build up that stock of images. We're supporting another local club. And yeah, that things like, bring your mum bike. If you need a wetsuit or something like that, come and talk to one of us. We'll try and help you out with gear. We're lending our bikes out for people who want to try a road bike. I've got a spare road bike there. Give this a go. So just that welcoming kind of, that personal connection again, but also going, don't worry about the gear. It's not about the gear.
Yeah, you're creating the. Yeah, well, you're creating the feeling that the person's got before they join as, that's just our normal. That's okay. That's our normal. That's nothing to feel self-conscious about or lack of confidence, which is brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. The other thing that I just don't want to just skip over, because it's huge, is that conscious focus on welcoming someone into the club, not letting them walk around like a lost sheep, because our clubs are intimidating. I'm learning for the first time, really, that creates a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress for people. So that focus on introducing yourself, making them feel welcome, has been a real important part of your program.
Yeah, definitely. And look, after the first year, we did a lot of reflection, and we're still doing reflection. We had an extensive club survey sent out at the end of this season. And the feedback that we're getting there, we initiated sort of this past season some free training sessions, and really put that emphasis on more social than serious. You know, most of the sessions are scalable to different levels and abilities and fitness levels. So the feedback that we're getting there is that is more likely to be the first step, and that environment helps us, because I guess our club is completely run by volunteers, so we're flat out running events.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes really hard to do that. You know, you've got a lot of new people, you've got a lot of things going on an event day. So these training sessions have been a fantastic way to just kind of meet someone more quietly. They tend to have between 5 and 10 people turn up, so it's a lot more conducive to being able to make that personal connection. And once you know a friendly face, you know, on event day, you're more likely to turn up on event day and, you know, help facilitate other connections. You know, oh, you're a new person, you're thinking about trying your first triathlon, just come along, you know, try a little bike ride on a Sunday morning. It's nice and cruisy, great opportunity to have a chat.
So just go back to the splash, dash, and dawdle, because I thought that was really cool. So the splash, how long was the event? So the splash was, how big was the swim?
I can't even remember the specific event, the specific lengths, but it was basically I'd say a 20 to 50 metre splash through the ocean. So it's not actually swimming. It's at the beautiful Killarney Beach, sort of located between Warrnambool and Port Fairy. It's a beautiful flat course, unbelievable beach. So the kids and their parents or carers just splash through, get a little bit wet, don't have to completely go under. And then they toddle over the sand to their bikes. They do a small lap on the bike just around the oval, and then probably about a 50 metre run or dawdle. And look, because of the beauty of the non-competitive is, it's like, if you want to bail out early, like your toddler has just had enough, that's fine. Everybody gets we're fortunate enough to be sponsored by our local Saputo milk factory, so we get flavoured milks, and every kid that crosses the line gets a flavoured milk, and that's just the best thing in the whole wide world.
Oh, the debate about participation awards. The dash on the bike, I love the fact that, you know, it really made it clear that equipment was irrelevant, because you had kids on triathlons, trikes, and other things with wheels. It wasn't just, it was just fun.
Yeah. Bring whatever you've got and have a go. It's all about having a go. It's not a race.
And I think that the fact that you've recognised that one of the greatest assets that clubs have is the parents that are there watching their kids participate. They want to be doing stuff as well. We didn't recognise that or realise that, and you've created a couple of opportunities for them.
Yeah, and look, that's been further developed this year. We added a new small series of events, the mini series triathlons on a Thursday evening over January. So it's that Thursday after work in a time slot where any other part of the year you're probably running kids around to sports and things like that. But yeah, so that was just down at our local river, and they were really small, you know, short courses. Fantastic opportunity for kids and parents to do things together. And we sort of found with the first week we had a couple of kids, and the second week we had a few more, and we talked to their parents. And then I think in the final week there was a couple of examples where I saw mum going around with the kids as well. So that was fantastic to see, and obviously a real winner for a new format, which we'll carry forward for next season as well.
So speaking of the format for next season, so what are you going to do with the format? Is it going to change or evolve for the coming year, or?
Yeah, look, we're just talking about how we're going to do that now. And at this stage, we have 9 separate events on our calendar. And pretty much all of the events will have a full course, a short distance option, and kids events within all of those. What we have changed with the Couch to Coast event, I'm not sure whether we're going to carry that branding through, probably not. It was a standalone thing that we added when there wasn't much women's participation, and now there is, so it's become part of the mainstream now. So what we're thinking of doing is actually moving our women's triathlon to the end of the season, because that gives more opportunity for people to get involved throughout the season via the training options, with the view to perhaps culminate at the end of the season doing an event. And it's not going to be a women's only triathlon. So we've pretty much got 50-50 on our committee now. We've pretty much got 50-50 turning up to events, male, female. And we sort of think that there might be, we don't want to exclude anybody. And I think we've sort of done the work now to get women there. And I think, there might be a few blokes that actually want to try that shorter introductory distance as well. So we've moved it to the end of the season. The Splash Dash and Dawdle, that format is pretty much available now at all our events. So again, whether we'll keep that branding, it just tends to be, we just say to parents, look, you can jump in with your kids, to help them out with those younger kids. So it's become, it's not so much a separate thing anymore. It's really moved into the mainstream of what the club does at pretty much all our events now.
Well, that was where I was going to go with this. So it started off as an introductory participation program. What has it become to the club?
Look, it's just become part of our mainstream focus now. I think where it began as a separate thing, it's now just part of what we do. I think with all our imaging and our messaging online, people can now see themselves, and we say that we cater for everything from social right through to competitive. So we don't want to, because there's lots of people who really enjoy the competitive side of that too, but we just want to try and offer something for everybody that you can participate at whatever level you're wanting to.
So out of the water and off the bike, has introducing this program created other benefits for the club long term, or change the way it operates?
Yeah, look, definitely. I think we certainly benefited early on with our partnership with the This Girl Can program, and then subsequently we received a Vic Health grant, which enabled us to purchase a couple of rescue boards, which helped support our free training sessions. We start people off in the river. It's a little bit less intimidating than the ocean. And we have rescue boards there for people to grab onto, hitch a ride for a little while if you're tired. And we also upskilled some of our committee members to undertake the Tri-Vic Foundation coaching. So that's really made a big impact, allowed us to add a bit more value to what we're providing. And just having those few things to kickstart meant more messaging around that sort of stuff. We're out there a little bit more, and it's helped us attract more sponsorship, because I think what we're doing is really attractive to businesses. I think that messaging and that broad audience and the inclusion is something that businesses are really keen to associate their brands and their ethos with. So I think it's been really helpful in attracting and maintaining our sponsorship base as well.
So that's amazing, isn't it? Just listening to you talk, it's helped you attract coaches. You've now got 50-50 on the committee, 50-50 participation at events. It's helping you attract sponsors, and it started with someone saying, where are all the women, and now there they are, and that's been just an extraordinary journey. That's why I've just loved listening to the conversation, both the ones we've had and this one. If I'm a club and I'm thinking, to go down this path and introduce participation options for groups that we haven't traditionally offered before, what would be the advice or tips that you would have for them?
Yeah, so I think offering those social sessions without help sort of alleviate some of the pressure of turning up. So getting the messaging right around that is really helpful, and using social media, it's just like a very easy, free medium to use, and images definitely help as well. So and partnering with something or using the hashtag, the This Girl Can hashtag, and becoming a This Girl Can supporter helps, is one example of how you can help support that messaging. The other thing is, I think we touched on it earlier, was that if you actually get someone to come along, like if someone takes, for some people, it's a massive step just to turn up that first time. It might be a training session, it might be a social session, it might be an event. Either way, if you and the committee and your friends and affiliates can really make an effort to go and say, approach that person, say, hey, how you going? Find out a little bit about them, welcome them to the club, make yourself available for, help them out to get started. I think that makes a massive difference. And what we've found is that some of the people who sort of have come on board more recently are some of our best ambassadors for new people, because they remember how that felt and they make a real effort to do that. It sets the whole tone and culture of your club.
Brilliant. If I can just bring up, just in closing, as we kind of look to wrap up the discussion, which is a bit of a pity because, as I say quite regularly, we could talk for a long period of time. But if I just bring up the principles that Vic Health and La Trobe Uni have created in as a result of their research and helping us all do sport differently. And if I just look at a couple of the ones that have really sprung out, think about the participants and customer experience from their perspective. So create your social media so they can see themselves doing it. Think about the experience from their point, which you talked about a lot. And I guess that's engaging with the target market, is when you realize that really what you did the first time, which was create a competition, wasn't quite right for that group. So you came back and created those skill-based social training groups. So looking at, again, engaging the group. And what that then does is what you're doing and putting into practice is creating that really nice pathway where I can go from, and for the record, I like both the Couch to Coast and the Splash Dash and Dawdle brands, just for the record. But you can go from the couch, learn the sport. There's a progression into the river, progression into short form social, into the water. And then if you want to go into competition, there's options from a family for me to do it with my kids. It's just for every level of skill. But as you said, I think the other really important element to consider is skill, fitness, and confidence. So, and then it picks up in this best practice and becomes sustainable because of the way that you've done it. So if we look at the theory, it's just a perfectly executed case for why the theory that's coming out of the research of La Trobe Uni and Vic Health is just so powerful and creates a framework that can help us all as we look to do sport differently.
Yeah, well, I don't think we thought of all that when we were doing it. We weren't thinking that far ahead, but it certainly seems to have played out that way. And look, full credit to an amazing committee as well. We've got a fantastic leadership team, and they're all really on board with this concept. So it's it's a great place to be.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of what Vic Health are doing. They're doing the research, they're funding clubs to go out and do the practice. And now we're really excited that we get to go and tell the stories and kind of show people, hey, if you're starting from scratch, a blank piece of paper, then these steps, they genuinely work. And as you've shared with us today, Kate, and it's been just a wonderful discussion, they create just a monumental impact on the club when you're able to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. you're spot on there, Steve.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for joining us today in the Sports Community live stream. It's just been awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, absolutely. And we thank Vic Health. And I'll just quickly, as before we wrap up, next week's guest is John Chalmers, next Wednesday on our Doing Sport Differently Wednesday. John Chalmers is our guest from the Morty Alec Motor Yacht Club. And what I love about this story is that they're using activities other than what their core or traditional activity is to be able to attract new people and introduce their club. And so that's going to be really cool. On Friday, Esport Friday as normal, and lots and lots of guests for next week. And Kate, you've already got one supporter, Nicole Barnes. See the benefit of giving a shout out when you are doing the live streaming. So fantastic. Nicole, thanks for listening in. Great work for what you're doing at Warrnambool Triathlon Club. I'm Steve Pallas, and thank you very much for being part of our sports community.
Thanks, Steve.